I have never seen a team so uninterested in playing football win a game 24-16. So if Iowa State's capable of doing that, win games without even trying at all, are they our eventual national champions? We'll talk about it today on Locked On Cyclones.
You are Locked On Cyclones, your daily podcast on the Iowa State Cyclones, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Cyclones, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Shout out to you for being here every single day, making this your first watch or listen of the day. I appreciate it more than you know. Be sure to hit subscribe down below. We're proving it's a Cyclone State. Today, we are talking about Iowa State defeating Arkansas State, okay? It's going to be plain and simple. We'll talk about the game as a whole, the offense, the defense, the special teams, everything in between. I don't know if 30 minutes is going to be enough, so you're going to want to come back on Monday. That's for sure. But first, this episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda Move and Be Moved. Iowa State defeats Arkansas State 24-16. In every way, shape, or form, this was an L except for the scoreboard for Iowa State. I almost led off this show by saying Iowa State wins on the scoreboard but loses the game. There was no real way that Iowa State won this game, in my opinion. Okay. Yes, you come away through the first 4 weeks now 4-0. That's a win. You got to look for the wins right now. We're on the silver lining train. We've got to find something to feel good about after this win, which is a crazy statement to make. Matt Campbell talked so much about how big those first 4 weeks were going to be. You know, you come off of Kansas State and Ireland with a win. That's great. How are you going to respond? South Dakota, dominant win. Iowa, emotional game. I was in Jack Trice for that game. I felt the atmosphere. I saw how full it was, how important it was to obviously all the fans, not only in Iowa City, but in Ames, but also the players as well. Like, it was huge. It's a huge game, and you win that one by basically a go-ahead field goal, right? And Kyle Conradi with the 54-yard, like, I know how important that was. I know how emotional that was. How are you going to respond? Well, you go down to Jonesboro, where I'm pretty sure the only people that know where Jonesboro is they live in that town, and they were all at this game, and the stands weren't even full. So we saved $4 million, but we almost threw our college football playoff hopes down the drain. I guess that's a good thing, but I'm going to leave that alone because that wasn't even a part of the game. As far as the game goes, I mean, I'm obviously a little fired up because there was maybe 3 things that went well in this game. Genuinely. It felt like every possible thing that could happen, we were doing it wrong. Defensively, I don't know. I must have missed. Did they do this on the field or did they do this back in the locker room? Arkansas State, I think, was entirely covered in Vaseline. They were unable to be tackled. Or was that Iowa State just not tackling them? I don't know. Because way too many times, way too many times were guys getting completely wrapped up and then extending the play. It looked like Iowa State did not want to play defense. Were they just too tired? I heard at the end of the broadcast, the boys in the booth were talking about, Matt Campbell said, like, our team is emotionally or mentally drained. Okay. I'm going to just mentally unpack that for a second. I don't love that. Like, what are we even talking? Like, okay, whatever. But the tackling issue was a big one in this one. Jalen Rayner had 223 yards through the air and rushed 16 times, for 83 yards. I'm not even going to look at the box score that much in this. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I'm going to tell you a lot of vibes. It felt like Iowa State did not want to tackle anybody in this one, period. Offensively, early on in this game, Iowa State was getting way too cute with the play calls. Mauser, what are we doing? What are we doing? Let's just get the first down. Let's just move on. That wasn't every time, obviously. It wasn't like we were running trick plays every play, but it was happening way too much. We'll talk about the defense and we'll talk about the end of the game. I think we're going to be our second and third segments here. So we'll talk more about like the third down situations for Iowa State on defense. On offense, it felt like we were unable to dial up a play that made sense. Arkansas ran all over this team, and yet Iowa State was like, let's just get away from all the quick outs and the checkdowns that Rocco generally does, that we succeed with. And let's just try new stuff. Let's just try some funky stuff today. Let's try to mix it up, see where we can succeed, because this is against the Sun Belt team. We could do whatever we want against the Sun Belt team. Well, you can't. You can't. You really can't. I don't want. I'm sure that was not the conversations they were having, but that's how it came across to me. Offensively, it didn't seem like our play calls made a whole lot of sense. It really didn't. And then we could talk about the wide receivers dropping balls, but it's not even worth really mentioning, because that's not something that's like really changeable. Does that make sense? You don't go into a week and say, all right, let's start catching more balls this week. Let's really work on that. Nobody is running a route hoping to drop it. You can go into a week and say, all right, we've got Arkansas State this week. They gave up 300 on the ground last week. We're going to try to run it as well. We're going to move away from the pass a little bit. We're going to run it more, so we can hopefully model what happened last week. In this hypothetical scenario, you can say, let's run the ball more. You can't really say, all right, let's catch the ball more. It doesn't really work. So it's not even worth mentioning, but we did have a fair amount of drops in this one. There were some big catches. Don't get me wrong. I'm not ignoring that. I was really shocked to see Carson Brown was the target on that last play of the game. We'll talk about that at the end of the show. The big play from Townsend as well. But we had guys with a whole mitt on one of their hands making interceptions because we're dropping passes. That's really all I need to say. That is all. I just don't know how else to put that. That wasn't a great play made by the defender. Wasn't like he went up with one hand and had his club, kind of pinned on the ground, cartwheel style, one-handed. Whoa, that was crazy, dude. No, he was just hanging out behind Iowa State. I think it was it Bramer? It might have been Bramer that dropped that. Not entirely sure. I think it was Bramer. What are we doing? We've got to be catching those passes. Obviously, I'm a little fired up. I can tell you right now, this would be a whole lot different if we lost this game. I just totally, you couldn't lose this one. There was no way Iowa State could lose this game. Every time Iowa State wanted to play, they played well. I don't know how else to put that. Whenever Iowa State was like, let's go score. Let's go get some offensive yards. Let's go stop them on third down. It really kind of felt like when it was hitting the fan, Iowa State was able to play. That was what it kind of came down to for me. When it was just like the rest of the time we're sleepwalking out there. So the bye week couldn't come at a better time. I genuinely, if Iowa State played next week, I don't think we could have played what is that, School of Mines, whatever that I can't even think right now. All I can think of is I totally missed the Tennessee game because of this. I thought we were going to be done with this at halftime. We could play that School of the Mines and lose by 40 if we played next week. This bye could not have come at a better time for Iowa State, which is, that's a good thing. We're taking the silver linings where we can get them. But man, did Iowa State just not want to play in this one. Defensively, I can't tell you how many times, and we're going to talk about this here in a second, we were just chilling at 5 yards. Just yeah, come meet us. We'll try to tackle you. Okay, so you're okay with them getting 5 yards of play. You are totally cool with that. Is that really what is that imposing our will? Is that really showing Arkansas State what Iowa State's capable of? I feel like that's kind of hanging out. We are going to talk about the defense in a second. But last thought on the entire game, before we kind of dive into individual parts, this was terrible. Terrible performance from Iowa State. Glad we got the win. Very glad. But I feel a very different type of way now as opposed to at 11 o'clock this morning or exactly 1 week ago today. Any point during the week last week. My vibes on Iowa State right now are a high level of concern. High. And maybe I'm overreacting, but it's Saturday. The game ended 10 minutes ago. It's the time it takes for me to turn on my PC. I've never jumped on this recording so fast. So it might just be an overreaction. But high level of concern. and especially because of the defense. We're going to talk about that coming up here in a second. This episode is brought to you by Mazda, moving the game forward for those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, move culture, and keep moving the game forward. This week's moment that moved the game forward, I think, was Townsend's deep catch. Right in a bucket from Rocco, exactly where it needed to be, and Townsend came down with it. I think that was maybe the moment that defined Iowa State's win over Arkansas State. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. Iowa State defensively may not have a single game with worse tape than this one. That maybe is a little bit of an overreaction. I'm okay with saying that. That was abysmal. I don't think there was a single adjustment made against Arkansas State, against Jalen Rayner. I think Iowa State was totally okay with giving up. What did they give up? 382 yards to Arkansas State. You heard what Locked On Cyclones, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And I just have never seen a team be totally cool with, yeah, you know what? You're 19 of 33 on the day. We're totally cool with you running it. You know what? Go ahead. 16 carries for Rayner, 83 yards, the touchdown for Arkansas State in this one. That that was wild to me. That Iowa State was totally okay with Arkansas State just rushing all over. 40 carries for 160 yards in the game. 222 through the air, I think, is misleading. I don't think that tells the story of the game at all. I think it was on the ground that Iowa State was more exposed. Yeah, in the passing game, that 222 is a true number. Like, it's not like weirdly blown out of proportion. I think the biggest problem for Iowa State was that it seemed like they were totally okay with giving up 5-6 yards. And in the situations where they would stop Arkansas State on first or second down, they were totally it was like busted coverage every play. Like, way out leveraged. Oh, I forgot he was eligible. Now I'm 3 yards behind him. It's a wide open throw. That is totally unacceptable. I don't know how you can't be putting teams in either no third down at all or 3rd and 10 plus and be you can't because they're giving up the 3rd and 10 plus. So giving them, the first down on second down, not good. We don't want that. But if that's going to happen, at least you now move on to the next set of downs as opposed to giving them a 3rd and 1 and they convert. Okay. You give it to them on second down. Now you got to show them on this next set of downs, this is the end of the drive. Except then they would just go and get another first down. I was shocked at either Iowa State's lack of urgency throughout an entire possession, throughout an entire offensive drive for Arkansas State, or they would go out there and they really lay it down. They would get it done early. First down, second down. Now you've got 3rd and maybe there was a negative play. 3rd and 8. And it never felt to me like Iowa State was capable of making that stop. When Iowa State was bailed out late in this game, which we'll talk about in clutch time in the 3rd segment, when Iowa State was bailed out late in this game, I genuinely was like, now we might be in more trouble. There's more space between Arkansas State and the end zone, and I don't know if we're capable. Because when they're real close, Arkansas State, if they run it up the middle, Iowa State's going to be okay. That was the only place Iowa State I felt like was good defensively all game. And once you back them up, now the playbook is wide open for Arkansas State. And Iowa State looked slow. I genuinely was like, are we playing with ankle weights on? We are tired. We were tired out there on the field. Haven't really seen that yet. And the reason I'm so concerned is if this were a game against Arizona, say, our next big game, right? Or against TCU or anyone in the Big 12, I would be upset, but I wouldn't be like this. This is against Arkansas State, a team that has never beaten a team in the top. I think they have two ranked wins ever. Again, it was against 2 number 25s, something like that. And we beat them by like 40 last year. Like, what are we? This is not Big 12 level of play that we're facing, and we're barely eking out wins. This is, I guess, you could look at it like this is another win added to the close game column. Like, yeah, we won another close game. We've got more experience in that area. I thought Iowa State got it done. They did accomplish the task of winning the game. They just did it in the worst possible way, I thought. I didn't think that this looked good at all. Maybe I'm being too negative. I did not like what I saw from Iowa State here today at all. The really defensively, my favorite part of the game. Let's try to keep this positive. Trey Bell, I mean, had a couple moments earlier in the game. Not a huge fan of those. Late in the game, what a catch. I mean, what a catch from Trey Bell. Diving, 2 hands on the ball, comes down with it. I mean, yeah, that was awesome. That was a huge catch for Trey Bell. And then the offense right after that, we'll talk about that in clutch time because that's the end of the game. We can talk about it then. Defensively for this one, across the board, it really came down to, I thought we needed to adjust more to Jalen Rayner. I thought that he just basically whatever he wanted to have happen was going to happen. I thought secondary struggled pretty heavily in this one. I thought the linebacking core did not feel like they were getting downhill. It really felt like they were totally cool, like I just said, with chilling out at the 5-yard line, 5 yards from the line of scrimmage, and just hanging out there and daring Arkansas State to come and get them. Like, I dare you to come over here and hit me. They came and hit you, dude. Now you got to go get them. They did that the entire game, it felt like. So I wasn't a huge fan of that either. We didn't, and the other, this one really was puzzling to me, was it felt like Iowa State was incapable of maintaining lanes the entire game, especially more so early on. Late in the game, it was a little better. Tackling somehow got worse at that point, but our lane maintenance was relatively improved in some ways throughout the game. But early on, didn't matter if we brought 3 or 4 or 5. Jalen Rayner might just be a generational talent, the way he was able to escape the pocket and find a way of getting out of there. That's, if you're facing Lamar Jackson, you're going to have some of that. And I totally understand that. I get it. And Matt Campbell did say how good Jalen Rayner is and was like this week. There's a possibility he's just that good. But if you're going to be like, if Iowa State's who we think they can be, you're able to make those stops. You're able to make those plays. I don't know how else to talk about that. You're giving up huge chunk plays, or at least chunk plays on huge downs, because you're unable to get home, unable to cause pressure in the backfield. And there were so many plays in this game that are going to go in here as passes in this 222 column that were effectively runs, where it's a catch and throw. It's a really split out, basically stretch call. And we just didn't really have the tackling out wide. And we were getting beat. We were getting beat on the defensive line every time we weren't giving up plays. Does that make sense? Every time that we didn't actively let them do something by making a mistake, we were getting beat. Don't love that. I think at the end of the day, Iowa State is better than this. Like I said, when crunch time came on and Iowa State had to do something, or you're now 3-1 and you give Arkansas State their first top 15 win, and it's at home, and the whole 1,000 people that live there are just going to throw parties for the next month. Like, when it came down to that moment, Iowa State got it done. Deep shot to the right, deep shot to the left, over the middle. Abu Shama, 90-yard touchdown, called back for holding. Like, Iowa State was able to do things in this game when they wanted to. They were able to make stops, albeit it wasn't as easy for the defense to turn on as it was for the offense. I will say this. Let me throw this in here, last point, because I know that you guys are just as probably feeling the same way as I am. If I'm wrong on that, I'm wrong on that. And maybe you're coming at me in the comments. Good. Do it. Or at Nick_Marv on Twitter. I will say the defense could have been extremely tired in this one, because it was clear Arkansas State's game plan was to run out the clock. I will acknowledge that entirely. I will say, though, devil's advocate, to my point, you should not be letting them run out It's not like you're facing Oregon here. You're not like it's Arkansas State, and you're basically letting them continue their drives. It was a thing of, yeah, Arkansas State's letting this play clock get down under 15 over and over and over and keep Iowa State's defense on the field and really crunch down the number of possessions this game can have by holding on to the ball the entire game, which is going to make Iowa State's defense tired, it's like a snowball effect. We know that about football. I understand that. That is a very legitimate strategy, and it seemed to work very well for Arkansas State. But as Iowa State, you can't let them do that. You can't let them rush for 5 yards when they need to. Like, you just have to make those stops. You can't let them have 17 play drives. You've got to do better than that. You have to. And I think that they will moving forward, but at least I really hope they do. Iowa State comes away with the win, though, which is awesome. So we're going to talk about crunch time for Iowa State, getting it done yet again right here after this. If you're trying to stay on top of your routine, whether that's workouts, long days on campus, or staying focused through back-to-back classes, hydration is where it all starts, and that's where Drip Drop comes in. Drip Drop is doctor-developed and scientifically proven for fast hydration. It uses the perfect balance of sodium, electrolytes, and glucose to help your body absorb fluids quickly, delivering 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of a leading sports drink. My go-to flavor, personally, it's kind of a mix-up. Lemon lime is up there. Peach, love the peach. They're all really good, though. I have not had one where I was disappointed, that's for sure. I always keep a few packets on me so I can get hydrated wherever I need to. Right now, Drip Drop is offering Locked On listeners 20% off your first order. Just head to dripdrop.com, use promo code LOCKEDONCollege. That's dripdrop.com, promo code LOCKEDONCollege for 20% off. Stock up now while it is extremely hot out. Today's episode is also brought to you by DoorDash. It's almost a weekend. Well, it is a weekend. It's time to look back on Iowa State's win and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. Rocco Becht, obviously, one of the main players we would look towards. I think I'm going to go Townsend here. Deep shot, you make that grab. That's a huge one. You could also look at, obviously, where is it? Carson Brown, number 10 for Iowa State, making that last catch of the game to seal it all. Iowa State got it done when they needed to. It was not pretty, though. Just like, let's say, Carson Brown delivered for Iowa State. DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you could save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period ends 11/18, November 18th. Iowa State gets the win over Arkansas State, 24-16. I am semi-sweating here because I'm so worked up about this game. Iowa State should not have been in this case, should not have been in this situation. I actually, here at Locked On Cyclones, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, as your host, Nick Moravitz, wrote on my little phone on my notes app, like I was going to break down basically every single drive because I didn't think we would have a whole lot of drives with our starters in this one. I was basically going to go play by play, which I usually do in my rewatch. I try to just enjoy the game on the first watch, but this one I was like, we might not have a whole lot. I want to give the fans a full, real, in-depth breakdown. I ended up keeping track of basically everything through the entire game because Iowa State never pulled away in this one. They did come away with a win. They never really pulled away. Iowa State gets another super close win. They threw up a graphic at the end of this showdown, I guess, which is crazy to think about. Most wins in one-score games the last 2 seasons. Syracuse had 8. Iowa State had 7. Guess who else had 7? Arkansas State, very interestingly enough. Iowa State obviously gets this win and moves to 8. So I guess tied for most wins in one-score games over the last 2 seasons. Nonetheless, what did Iowa State do to get the win towards the end of this game? Well, they certainly started to actually play football. Let's just start with that. That was helpful. Secondly, offense. Got a few things done. Few big plays, obviously, really helps moving the ball downfield. I did think offensively we struggled in this one in some ways. I definitely thought it wasn't quite as drive-y as we've seen Iowa State be in the last few weeks. It was a little bit more chunk play-esque in some ways. Obviously, he still put up 24 points. And it still looked okay. I think offensively we looked a lot better than we did defensively, and I didn't even think we looked that good offensively. But chunk plays at the end of this one were huge for Iowa State, and I think if Sama touchdown that got called back would have gone through, that would have been a huge boost to the numbers. Running in this game, Iowa State rushed 34 times. Rocco had 5 of those for 4 yards. So if we take those out, 29 rushes for 183 yards. Carson Hansen, 18 for 116, and Sama, 9 for 69. Just didn't really feel like Iowa State wanted to rush in this one. However, Iowa State did have a few chunk plays, 44-yarder to Townsend, 31 to Moore and Brown. Both had a 31-yarder. Overby had a 27-yarder. Sowell was really the only guy who didn't have a chunk play. Or the first guy, I guess. I shouldn't say the only guy. Hansen, Alexander, Sama, and Bramer all had catches that weren't necessarily chunk plays. Chunk plays are good. They are good. They should be happening more when you're the 14 team in the country and you're playing Arkansas State. Granted, it's on the road. The environment was obviously odd. The environment was obviously... I was shocked at how riled up those fans were for how empty it was, too. Maybe they were just really close to the mics. That went to the TV. Look, Iowa State showed that they can play at the end of these games. They might have been more tired than Arkansas State. Genuinely, I think that they might not have been somehow as conditioned, just partially because of the defensive number of snaps that Iowa State had to go through. But on the offensive side of the ball, then you give the ball back to Hansen, who is pretty much as fresh as the beginning of the game. And that's going to be a bit of a problem because he's one of the best running backs in the game right now. I thought Iowa State did enough in this one. I thought Iowa State found a way. They basically, it kind of felt like Iowa State was trying to get to the fourth quarter of this one too. Arkansas State said going into this, get it to the fourth quarter, then you can win that game. Let it be determined by a ball bounce. I felt like Iowa State was like, let's just get to the end of this game, and we are good enough at the end of games. We could just win it. Like, let's just not worry about anything in the first 45 minutes. Once the fourth quarter hits, we will start trying again, and then we've got to win it. Like, that's just what it's going to be. I don't love that, but that was how it felt. That was literally how I kind of feel looking back on this. It really wasn't a lot of urgency early on in this one. You obviously have your drive at the end of the first half. What'd they get? 75 yards in 20 seconds, 28 seconds, maybe. I don't even think it was that long. Deep shot in the end zone. Like, I was like, oh, wow. It's almost like Iowa State's a top 14 team and Arkansas State is in the Sun Belt. I wonder if we can figure that out in the second half. And then we were just like, yeah, are we in the Sun Belt? Which conference are we in? No. Dude, play the game. Play the game. It was that simple. Overall, like I said, I do have concerns about this game and this team. But even through this, you've sat here with me. I feel slightly better. I would say I feel 1% better. I would grade Iowa State in this game a D-. I shouldn't go that low. Let's go C-. I'll give them a C-. They showed up when they had to. They clutched up. They really made plays at the end of the game count. Obviously, a huge catch by Carson Brown. Did not love the play calling in this one, both offensively and defensively. Did not love the sense of urgency. I don't think in this game, Iowa State ever made Arkansas State feel like they were playing Iowa State. Every single snap in this game, it felt like these were two equal caliber teams somehow. Like, it was... I shouldn't say it like that because when you saw Iowa State flex, it showed that it was Iowa State. But especially defensively, Iowa State never really showed Arkansas State who they were. When the first pass of the game was an overthrow from Becht, which isn't the end of the world. Like, we're going to take that shot. We'll take it, whatever, move on. If it goes, it goes. If it doesn't, it doesn't. That could have been a touchdown, but it ended up not being one. All right, we move on. It was like once that play didn't hit, Iowa State was like, all right, now we're just going to try to get to the end of this. Like, we're not going to win or we're not going to score every time we touch the ball. Well, let's just get to the end of this one. That was kind of how it felt. Nonetheless, they get the win. They go 4-0 into the bye week. Great. I'm going to need to see a lot more next time you guys are on the field. Personally, if I'm being too negative, let me know. I will listen to everyone that says something. But I did not like what I saw in this game. Got it done. Got the win. Great. Awesome. 4-0. I don't even know if you're moving the AP poll in this up, especially. Might move down. It's not the end of the world, but you got the win. It was a hangover spot. We can look past this. We absolutely can look past this as a one-off game. Just do not let this be the new normal. That you just can't let it. It's that simple. Thank you guys for listening to this point. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. Cyclones 4-0. Like I said, not going to try. You win games when you're not trying. Maybe that means you're a national champion once you actually kick it into high gear. Let me know what you think down below or at Nick_Marv on Twitter. Stay safe out there. Let's enjoy the rest of this weekend and look forward to a bye week where Iowa State can hopefully rest up and get their heads back in the game. Until next time, Cyclone fans, sayonara.